All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started here this morning. I want to give you a big welcome. Thanks for coming out to Astricon. Who's excited to be here today? I am. All right. My name's Jared Smith. I'm going to be the primary instructor today. I want to give you a little introduction to what we're presenting here today. It's called Asterisk 1, 2, 3. This is a portion of some of the Digium training material that they teach in their training classes. And it gives you an introduction of what Asterisk is, where it fits, how to get up and running with the basics of Asterisk. How many people here have actually gone into the configuration files of Asterisk and started to learn the configuration files? Okay, how many haven't? About the other half, about half and half. Well, you're both in the right class. We're going to dive into some of the configuration files a little bit. It'll be a brief introduction, but more importantly than that, we want to set some of the fundamentals and some of the foundations for voice over IP in general, and then Asterisk and how it fits into that mix. Again, a little bit by way of introduction. My name's Jared Smith. Up until this summer, I worked for Digium as their training manager. This summer, I got hired away by Red Hat to run the Fedora project. Anybody here use Fedora Linux or heard of Fedora Linux? Well, that's my new job, is to run the Fedora project. So it's kind of a fun thing. I was a little sad to leave Digium, but it was one of those opportunities that I just couldn't turn down. So, but they got me back here at Astricon. I couldn't not show up to Astricon and help out. So here I am. And you know, as is typical with Astricon, I'm running around like crazy trying to do some work behind the scenes. So you'll see me trying to be 3 places at once during the conference the rest of the week here. Also with me, I've got Derek Pelican. Derek, stand up, say hi. Hi. Derek's my partner in crime here today. He's works for Digium as one of the training instructors, and he has an awesome beard. I wish I could grow a beard like Derek. So nice beard. A little more on the logistics before we get started this morning. Just by way of the schedule, we're going to go from 9 until 10:30, and then we'll take a morning break. We'll start back up at 11 o'clock and go to 12:15. Then we'll take a longer break for lunch. Come back here at 1:45, go until 3, take a nice afternoon break, and then go from 3:30 until probably 4 or 4:30, just depending on questions that we have. I'll make sure that there's plenty of time at the end for questions and answers, and that sort of thing. I do like lots of feedback as I'm giving instruction here, so feel free to raise your hand if you've got a question, or if something doesn't make sense and I can clarify something, let me know. As far as the pacing of the material, I'm just going to go at the pace that people seem to be comfortable with. If I'm getting too fast or too slow, let me know, and we'll adjust the pacing of the material. Sound good? All right, let's go ahead and get started then. This first module is just kind of an introduction to Asterisk. Our goals are to figure out what is Asterisk, who created it, why did they create it, and a little bit behind the licensing of Asterisk for the legal folks and keep them happy. And then we want to talk about, well, what can Asterisk do for me? Why do I even want to be using it? Why am I here today? Okay. So you're probably all familiar with the most basics of what Asterisk is. It's obviously a PBX. It's a telephone switch. It's open source software, and we'll get into a little bit more about what open source means when we talk about the licensing. But it's really a software PBX, and it scales everything from the home user, the small user, all the way up to the enterprise. Even carriers are using Asterisk, believe it or not. You can't talk too much about Asterisk without talking a little bit about what is Digium, or who are Digium. Digium is the kind of the corporate sponsor of the Asterisk project. They're the primary developer and maintainer of Asterisk, but that's not to say that they're the only ones working on Asterisk. Because it's an open source project, there are literally contributors from all over the world, from both individuals and corporate collaborators that help write this software. And so Digium has as their business model to give the Asterisk software away for free, and then make money off the hardware cards, off the support, off the training, as well as a line of turnkey products that they have called SwitchVox. And so that's primarily their business model. They're headquartered in Huntsville, Alabama. I used to spend lots and lots of days in Huntsville, Alabama doing training classes. That's where Derek and a lot of the other Digium folks are headquartered. They've also got a small design and an engineering office in San Diego where the SwitchVox products come out of. So just a really brief history of Digium and Asterisk. Started by a guy by the name of Mark Spencer. You'll probably see Mark wander in the halls here during the conference. In 1999, he started a little company out of his dorm room in college. It was called Linux Support Services. Anybody remember 1999? I know that's been a long time, but you remember it was kind of just the beginnings of the internet bubble and the .com era, and Linux was really starting to take off. And he was making money in his dorm room by having people would call him and give him money to answer their Linux questions or put them in touch with a Linux developer that could solve their problem. And Mark's business was going so well that pretty soon he needed a real telephone system to be able to route calls to different people answering the phone and that sort of thing. And he found that telephone systems are expensive. And if you're trying to start a little business, bootstrap it out of your dorm room, a telephone system is a little cost prohibitive. Who wants to spend $100,000 or $200,000 for a nice PBX that handles call queues and call distribution if you're trying to start this little company with just a few $1,000s out of your dorm room? But Mark, being the innovative guy that he was, he said, well, it's just software. If I could just somehow get the calls into the PC, I could write the software to distribute the calls and do voicemail and those sorts of things. And so he did. By 2002, the focus of the company kind of changed to where they were more excited about this little piece of software they were writing called Asterisk and some of the hardware they were building to go with it than they were about the rest of their Linux support business. So they reincorporated the company, changed the name to Digium, and since 2002 have focused exclusively on Asterisk and Asterisk-related technologies. So Digium today kind of sponsors and continues to maintain the core infrastructure of the Asterisk project. They also obviously have sales. They sell their hardware cards and their support and their training and those sorts of things. And there are over 125 employees and still growing. I think this slide's a little out of date. What are you, about 150? About 150 employees, more or less, right now. A little more about Asterisk as a project. There's over 2 million Asterisk servers in production today around the world. There's no phone home mechanism or anything we have in there to know exactly how many there are, but we have some pretty good guesstimates that somewhere between 2 and 3 million Asterisk servers used in production today. Over 1,000 downloads a day from the Asterisk mirrors, and literally tens of thousands of users on the mailing lists and the forums and other communication mechanisms we have in place to get people communicating, get people talking about the project, sharing ideas, solving problems in a kind of a community-supported way, which is very much in keeping with the open source way of doing things. So it's a very healthy and vibrant community worldwide. There are several cities around the country and around the world that have Asterisk users groups that meet together, say, on a monthly basis and share ideas and topics and information. So typically, like I said earlier, Asterisk gets used as a PBX, or a private branch exchange. So what is a PBX? Anybody here have a PBX? I know Jamie there has a PBX. Jamie, what does a PBX do?
Takes in dials in from the telco and distributes it to your endpoints or users.
Very good. So I think that's a perfect example of what a PBX is. It takes these shared resources like dial tone from the telephone company or outside lines, and it shares those amongst a set of users, your inside callers, right? And a PBX typically handles other features like auto attendance and voicemail and maybe conference calling, those sorts of things, right? So if you were to go back 10 years, what does a PBX look like? It's a box. It's usually black. Sometimes they're painted white, but usually black. It hangs on the wall in a telco closet somewhere. It's dirty. It's dusty. You don't ever want to open it up. You just know it's this big, black, expensive box, right? All right? How about today? What does a PBX look like? Looks like a PC. You mean I could just use ordinary PC commodity hardware off the shelf and run a PBX? Wow. That's a different model, isn't it? How about handsets? 10 years ago, let's say if you bought I'm going to pick on Avaya today. If you bought an Avaya PBX 10 years ago, what kind of handsets could you use with it? Avayas. If you bought a Nortel PBX, what kind of handsets could you use? What if you wanted to buy an Avaya PBX and use Nortel handsets? Not going to happen, right? The nice thing about most modern PBXs is you have a lot better support for a broader range of handsets. More and more PBXs are moving to open protocols, open standards like the SIP protocol, which should allow you to interoperate many different handsets with many different PBXs. It's not always that simple. There are some PBXs out there that still do these secret handshakes to say, "Oh, I see that you really are a XYZ brand of handset. I'm going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to this other guy." which is silly to exploit an open protocol like that, but that's the world we live in. How about adding logic to your system? Let's say you wanted to set up a system where your employees could call into the PBX and check the amount of their last paycheck. If you tried to do that 10 years ago, what would that have cost you? It would have been prohibitively expensive. Talking probably tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to add that sort of, and a lot of time to integrate that. How about today? Is that easy to do? It's trivial to do with something like Asterisk. Okay? As long as the data is there where Asterisk can get to it, obviously. So we're in a world where the PBX isn't just this box hanging on the wall. It's really just another part of your IT infrastructure. Just like your mail server, just like your web server, just like your file server. It's just another box in your data center that's running, data through it. That means you got to back it up. You got to upgrade it. Just like any other server you'd have in your IT closet. Now, Asterisk is more than just the PBX. Typically, it's deployed as a PBX, but we're going to look at it from several different angles here. It's kind of this big multi-headed hydra of a beast. So we're going to talk about Asterisk as a program, but also as a toolkit and a platform, as a product, as a project, and then talk a little bit about the community and the business ecosystem around Asterisk. Once we've gone through this, then we'll get into the actual configuring of Asterisk and how do we set it up. Okay? So like I said earlier, typically used as a PBX or a small business telephone system. It's going to handle switching calls, routing calls, handling voicemail. It is an incredible linguist, which means it can talk voice over IP protocols like the SIP protocol, like the H323 protocol, like the EEX protocol. But it can also talk to analog phone lines, what we call the PSTN or public switch telephone network. It can talk T1 and E1 lines. Those sorts of things as well. And it can easily translate those calls between the different protocols, between the different formats. And so you can have one call that comes in on, say, an analog phone, another call that comes in, say, on a SIP phone, and Asterisk will go, route those calls just fine and allow them to connect to each other. In the world of voice, a question over here. It can handle video. One of the problems with video, though, is it's very CPU intensive to try to transcode video formats. And so Asterisk will pass through video from one device to another. It doesn't yet handle converting that video from one format to another format. But if you have two video phones of the same type that speak, say, the SIP protocol, then Asterisk will pass that video through and it'll work just fine. And well, SIP is just a communications protocol. It's just a signaling protocol, but Asterisk is set up to be able to interpret what's called the SDP messages in there and do the right thing, connecting the video endpoints to each other. You can even do things like video voicemail, video IVRs, all supported right in Asterisk. Okay?
Well, yeah, but you're talking about IVRs. I mean, that's pretty much, virtual receptions. You're talking about, thank you for calling foo.bar.net.
Right. And you can have a video playing right in that.
Video playing. But that's not SIP.
That's using the SIP protocol to communicate that video to the endpoint.
SIP to use that.
Right.
It's not like the RTP stream that you're talking about.
Sure, the RTP stream is coming from Asterisk. It's not just a proxy. It is a back-to-back user agent. That's the last bullet on my slide here. It's both a client and a server. Okay. So what I mean by this last bullet here is that Asterisk is both a SIP client and a SIP server in the SIP protocol, but in the more general sense, for any of the protocols that Asterisk supports, it can be an endpoint of a call. It's not just a proxy. A proxy just sits in the middle of a call and passes signaling along, but that isn't actually the endpoint of a call. Asterisk can be the endpoint of a call. So you can have an analog call come into Asterisk. Asterisk is the endpoint of that call. That call gets converted to, say, the SIP protocol and is the other endpoint of that call on the SIP side of things. So it can be the endpoint of a call, which gives it a lot of flexibility. With that flexibility comes the power to do a lot of neat things. Whether you're just doing